Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about a 1975 movie, a recent Criterion addition to the Criterion collection earlier in this month of July 2021. This is Andrei Tarkovsky's Mirror. This is this cover art here is one of the most emblematic um, moments of the film. It's a great cover with a mirror image upside down at the top. It's a very daunting movie. I have to say that when I saw it many years ago, and I didn't remember too much about it, but I know I was a bit puzzled by it. And when I watched it the first time a few days ago, I thought there's no way I'm going to be able to talk about this movie because I really don't understand the intentions of it, the style of it, the weightiness of it. It's simply not in my wheelhouse. But Criterion has assembled such a fantastic set of extras that when I watched it again earlier today, the movie didn't seem nearly as daunting to me, and a lot of it made sense, which is not to say that it isn't even on the first viewing. It's the story of a man who is very sick, presumably dying. He's looking back on his generation. This is Tarkovsky's generation. It's a very autobiographical movie of his own life and especially his childhood. And he's looking back to a time that this image comes from, which is when he was a young boy and he was staying at his grandfather's house. Tarkovsky actually replicated the entire house, rebuilt it according to photos and memories that family members had of how the house looked like. So, and part of this childhood time at this house is that the father has left them. I think Tarkovsky was only about 5 years old, maybe a little bit older than that when his father left, and it was a very revered, idolized his father, who was a renowned poet. So his life revolves around his mother, and how she influenced his life for better or for good. The movie is presented as a kind of a puzzle where we get episodes, and they're not in necessarily chronological order. In between these episodes, we get dreamlike sequences, kind of metaphysical. They have ghosts. People come, and time seems to fold over onto itself. And Tarkovsky is emphasizing many different things here. Certainly nostalgia for a childhood that he felt deprived of the father, and memory as a form of perhaps not torment, but let's say torment, but also perhaps a renewal that we learn something from looking back at this time. And he emphasizes the different elements of nature. Nature is very much a part of this film, especially water, but also fire. We see the burning, the famous shot of the burning barn, and but also wind. Wind is very big as a atmospheric element in the film. And also interspersed between these episodes, and there really are episodes. You really get to see it. In the supplements, we learned from the scriptwriter that there was actually 34 different episodes, and they couldn't get the right order, and it took them forever. So they put all the episodes up on a board on the wall, and they started changing all the episodes around until they got it to where both of them thought they had a coherent film, because Tarkovsky was worried that he had not made a very coherent movie when he looked at all the footage. But Tarkovsky also integrates documentary footage of his that occurred during his lifetime, and his mother's lifetime in Spanish Civil War. We get some amazing shots of Russian soldiers in World War II wading through a lake in the Crimea. That we see the bomb, we see a incident with a Chinese uprising in the eastern part of the Soviet Union of Russia. And all of this leads to a kind of oppressiveness of time. Time seems to be a character unto itself, the way we look at it, the way we feel it in the moment. Also, there's a deep-seated spirituality in the film, and Tarkovsky believed that without spirituality there could not be great art, that art is a form of prayer, and that it is the underpinning that the art that we create brings us closer to God, the Creator. And it's a form of expression that brings us closer to the depth of spirituality. So in all this, in this element, all these diverse elements that can be quite daunting when you see them the first time, it's a matter of, has Tarkovsky made his personal memories? Is it a form of self-indulgence, or has he made the personal universal? It's a question that I don't think I knew the answer to the first time I saw it. The second time I saw it, I think he does, in fact, make these memories universal, and that we can all examine our lives. Tarkovsky, one of those artists who believes that we should be always examining ourselves, our lives, the culture around us. Holding all this together is a marvelous performance by a beautiful actress and so expressive. Her name is Margarita Tarkova, and you have to mention her because you can lose. She plays two roles. She plays the mother when Tarkovsky is a young child, and she also plays Tarkovsky's first wife. A bit of symbolism there. I wasn't too sure about it the first time I saw it, but it does lend itself to the mirror image. And there's a scene where she looks in mirrors and she sees the mother as an older woman. And also he uses his real life father, who, as I said, was a renowned poet. So there is Tarkovsky Sr. Reciting his poems, and this is just piercingly beautiful words and the delivery. So that's the movie. And it's just a rough. this I can't possibly do justice to a movie like this. But as part of the great Criterion presentation here is a booklet, a booklet that has an essay, a very good essay, but it also has two treatments of the movie, and one's a very short one, and then one is almost like a novella, and it's written as if it was a story. And I gotta admit, I read that before I watched the movie. I don't know how much it helped me or not, but and it deviates some from this long story. But it also, you can see these are questions, I guess 79 through 83. It also involves Tarkovsky's initial his initial ambition to ask his mother something like 100 questions and getting her answer and filming it. Some of these are very, not deep questions. Some of them are kind of banal, but I would have loved to have seen that maybe as a separate extra, but I don't really know if it was ever even filmed. But it was this short story was really, or novella was really quite good, and I think whether you read it beforehand, it's not a movie about plot, so but it does get you into the mood of what the film might be like. And then there's a great 2019 documentary that was written and directed by Tarkovsky's son. It's called Andrei Tarkovsky, A Cinema Prayer. And we see, it's a full-length documentary, and we see images from the films, images from on the set, some photographs, some film, and the only person speaking is Tarkovsky himself. He's talking about his experiences, early experiences, and his successes, and then his ultimate exile when he defected to Italy because of the censorship problem that he was having as a director. His film before he left that he made in the Soviet Union was his last film was roundly criticized, and it was at Cannes, and there's another Russian director who was on the jury, and he just lambasted Tarkovsky. How Tarkovsky got nostalgia through the Film Institute and the people who financed film, because the treatment had been turned down by the head. He retired, and the new head was much more open, and he let Tarkovsky make the film. When he saw the film, this new head of the Russian Film Institute, responsible for the production of all these films in the Soviet Union, when he screened the film, he says, "Yes, I believe in personal expression, freedom of expression, but to this extent," he yelled in the cinema. But so the film was shelved for a while, but it had a underground reputation. Eventually, it was shown in the Soviet Union, and they show some, in one of the documentaries, they show scenes of lines of people anxious to see Tarkovsky's film because he was a very famous figure. The film was panned by all the critics, and there were a lot of walkouts in the screenings, the public screenings of the film. But of course, right now, I believe in the 2012 directors Sight and Sound poll, I believe it was number 9. It was somewhere in the top 20 in the critics poll as well. So the film has been very influential, and I guess you could say the most obvious one would be the influence on would be Terrence Malick, and especially in The Tree of Life. It's certainly a variation on the kind of approach to this particular film that Tarkovsky made. And we have another documentary on the extras, The Dream in the Mirror. This is a new one, new documentary as well. Friends and critics and people close to Tarkovsky who are still around reminisce about his career, his life, excellently edited. We never get it's a talking heads kind of thing, but there are some visuals to go along with it as well. But everybody has something very illuminating to say about Tarkovsky, this movie, and how it related to his family, how his family approached, how they reacted to a movie that was so personal as Mirror is. And we have a very long interview too with Alexander Misharin. And Misharin was the screenwriter and worked with a couple films with Tarkovsky, and he's a bit long-winded, but there are some great stories, and he's the one who collaborated with Tarkovsky in getting the kind of the order of which all these episodes would be presented in the final cut of the film. And we also have another really outstanding interview, and this is with the composer Eduard Artemyev, I believe his name is, and it's a fairly recent. He's very old, but he's very articulate. And I found that composers make great interviews when they're talking about, the construction of the movies. They have a special insight. They have to have a special insight into the images because they have to understand them in ways that, in order to create music for it. Now, he was basically on Mirror. He was basically a sound designer, as Tarkovsky was using Bach as his main influence, and a couple other composers. But I've noticed, like Ennio Morricone, with his comments on Investigation of a Citizen Above Suspicion, and just recently Lalo Schifrin describing how he collaborated with Don Siegel on the score for Charlie Varrick. And like I say, Artemyev was more or less a sound designer. He really didn't compose that much actual music for it, but he worked with Tarkovsky in other films, and he's just a delightful interview, and he's funny, and I think he probably gives the most appealing portrait of Tarkovsky and what it was to work with him. The artwork in both this booklet and in the physical copy itself is very impressionistic. Here you get a sense of prayer. It doesn't really have any, I don't think it has any real shots. It might be a few shots, but we get, in the booklet, we get mirror images and sort of more or less impressionistic photos. But overall, this is just an outstanding package. And if you've been afraid of Tarkovsky, if he seems a bit heavy, he's a weighty, philosophical. He believed his films shouldn't be seen as philosophical, but rather aesthetic. But certainly he is in his interviews. He's really just fascinating to listen to on what he considered the philosophy of art. Okay, so that'll about wrap up this video. Again, this is one of the really great Criterion releases of the year so far. Thanks for everybody who listened up to this point. I really appreciate it. Comments would be welcome, and I will catch you next time.